I don't know what would possess a guy confronted by a whole bunch of cops to go, I want to show them all my gun, but we do see it pretty regular.
Yep.
Hi friends, welcome to today's bonus badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. Your host as always, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Williver, also the host of the Active Self-Protection podcast, available on all podcast networks. Today's video comes to us from Washington, D.C.
Firearms Legal Protection is who I trust to help me after a use of force incident. If you're a Firearms Legal Protection member, you can attend our monthly Active Self-Protection training seminars for free. Check out all they offer to their members at the link below. Officers have been called here to this apartment complex in DC because I got a 911 call of a guy waving a rifle around, and they show up in this building and they are going to find that guy. Let's listen in on the badge cam.
We don't have enough to really go anywhere right now, right? Hello? Hey, it's the police.
Why is it the police?
We're just trying to check on someone. Can you open the door? We just need to talk to you real fast.
No, I cannot open the door.
What's your name?
What is your name? Why do you have a riot sheet?
Sergeant Nelson.
Why do you have a riot sheet? Why you got a riot sheet?
We're just trying to see what's going on tonight.
Door, man.
Huh?
Get away from my door.
Are you in need of any assistance or anything?
Nah, back up, because I want to actually talk to y'all.
Okay, that's fine.
Talk to y'all, so back up. I really want to talk to y'all, so back up.
Alright, you can talk to me. What's up?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Can I see? Huh?
Who's
Can you come out here and talk
No,
to
I
me?
cannot
real
talk
fast?
to y'all. Who's
I'm sorry?
Who's
Alright.
Who's coming up to my door talking about that?
70.
Who's coming up to my door talking about that?
I'm like 3010 now.
Who's coming up to my door talking about that? Who's knocking on my door? Why that jump me out here?
We're at number
Steps.
1414.
Bitch in the pig talking about people jump me coming across the street, got niggas
Sir.
with guns on me. Don't shoot him with a riot shield.
Hold
Don't.
on a second. What's going on tonight?
I don't know what's going on with you. Who's that bitch in the
Can you
pig?
hold on for a second?
Who's that bitch in? Don't hold on for a second. There's 15 niggas here. You telling me to hold
Yeah,
on.
we're making
That
contact
bitch in the
with,
pig and everybody jumping all around here. Where that bitch in the pig?
3010
Where that bitch in the pig at?
Sir,
Where that bitch in the pig at?
what's going on?
Where that bitch in the pig at?
Can we come
Where
in?
that bitch in the pig at?
You mind if we come in and just
No,
talk to
no,
you?
you cannot come in.
Okay.
No, you cannot come in.
So what's going
No,
on?
you cannot come in. I said, who's that bitch in the pink at? Don't act fucking stupid. Don't do it.
Sir.
Don't act fucking stupid.
Sir.
Don't act stupid.
Sir.
Don't.
Stop.
Who's where that bitch in the pink at?
3010. Definitely mental health consumer. Couldn't see inside. And he went back inside and slammed the door after yelling something about.
She run more, yeah, you can go suck a dick.
So we can't confirm any of this, right? It's just not sure at this point. Yo! Shots fired! We have a suspect down. Clear it! Clear the room!
Get the board to this location.
3070, shots fired. One suspect down. We need the ambulance.
Right now.
Now, one suspect down. Clear the apartment. Get him.
Board to this location.
Police!
Police. Anybody have a ticket? Get.
Start the fire department right now. We got multiple gunshots. No officers injured. Suspect is down. Multiple to the chest.
There was no one else in the complex. The shots that guy took proved to be fatal. No officers were hurt. They did release a picture of the gun that he had, which turned out to be an air rifle. Of course, you can see how realistic that looks. And the guy did not make it. He did die of his injuries. Dude, straight up, that guy that almost got in the way, whoo, made my butthole pucker.
Yeah, a little bit.
Let's get after lessons. Mike, these are really tough situations, and I think this officer did a pretty good job of trying to communicate with this guy and listen, I don't know what's going on. Somebody calls in and says somebody's got there with a rifle. So we got an officer with a patrol rifle with him. We got an officer with a shield. We know this can be very serious, but I think the officer in charge here does his best to try to talk to this guy.
Yeah, you know, communication is key. It's just so tough. I've been in this position, not this exact position, but a position where you just wish somebody would just open a dialogue and talk to you, and they just refuse to communicate in any meaningful way. And it's frustrating and difficult because you do your best, but you can only communicate to the level that the person you're talking to is willing to reciprocate. And in this case, it wasn't very much.
And I also think these are DC cops. You know, the District of Columbia is a very unique judicial district, right? So we're not in any state. We have federal laws that we have to follow here. And residents of DC, it's a very unique culture and a very unique place. And I think through all of that, this guy doesn't really want to communicate. And these officers have to balance. There's a balancing test here that yes, the safety of the public is important, but also the rights of the individual are important. And so, you know, this guy's saying, hey, he says, can we come in and take a look? And the guy says, no, you can't come in and take a look. And I think the officer did a good job here of letting that guy kind of assert his rights and still try to maintain and pull some discussion out of him.
You know, officers who might be watching this, you can't take it personally when somebody invokes their rights, whether it's their Fourth Amendment right or their Fifth Amendment right. You just have to work within the confines of the law, and that's what these guys are doing. You know, they're there for a legal reason. The officers are legally present, but they don't have a compelling exigency to the Fourth Amendment that would allow them to enter that apartment. So they're trying to talk and trying to work their way through it. And
now,
go ahead.
I'm wondering, Mike, I've got an interesting question for you on this one because they brought a riot shield and an officer with a rifle. And the guy makes a point to say, oh, what? You've got a guy with a riot shield here and you're just going to tell me everything's okay? Do you think that, I mean, I don't think it was unwise to have, but do you think it escalated things here?
Yeah, it's tough to say what's in this guy's mind at this moment, but, you know, people have always seemed to object to whether it's a Molly vest, you know, on a patrol officer, or in this case, a riot shield or a long gun, that this, you know, because of the presence of this or that piece of equipment, that we're escalating the situation. Well, they had a reason for having that there. It wasn't for nothing. So I think even though it may have escalated or it may have upset this guy, the fact is it was an appropriate tool to have with them in case they needed it.
Yeah, I think it was an appropriate tool because, again, we've got reports of a guy that is threatening people or walking around with a rifle. And listen, in Arizona where I live, a guy walking around with a rifle, they're going to keep asking questions like, is he threatening people with it or is he just open carrying it? Like, you can do that. In the district, not so much. So just somebody walking around in public with a rifle is going to, you know, cause a significant response from the constabulary. Now, I do want to ask as well and talk a little bit about establishing roles ahead of time, because we're going to have a bunch of gun pointing and really some very close calls here. And maybe talking this through with some of the guys when he goes back in the house and say, hey, okay, this is your role, this is your role, this is my role, I think might have helped a little bit here.
Yeah, as we're going to see a little later on when they're clearing this this apartment, a lot of agencies, unfortunately, don't do a lot of unit tactics trainings with training exercises with patrol officers or patrol deputies. Frequently, that's just with a SWAT team or whatever. I would like to see every agency, once you get assigned to a group or a unit, you're going to be, you know, this squad's going to be working day shift together for the next 6 months. Let's get out and just do at least a rudimentary amount of building clearing, amount of training that can prepare them for a situation like this. So, you know, okay, here's where we're at. Now, the senior officer needs to make assignments and we need to decide who's going to go where. And frequently, patrol just doesn't take the time to do that kind of training and get those reps in ahead of time.
Well, and here it gets pretty easy, right? Dude just shows up to the door, having already talked with these officers, knowing that they're there with a rifle in his hand. And I mean, these are the kinds of suicide by cops that I hate. I think that they're terrible. But at the same time, I mean, anybody in that situation has the right to defend themselves, an officer or anyone else. And so I don't blame the officer for responding with deadly force here, because the guy blows his door open, comes out with a rifle, and of course, you know, he's not coming to play show and tell.
You know, I could imagine there'll be people in this moment wondering why, or asking why he didn't wait until he pointed the rifle at them. And the reason is because that's too late for them to respond with gunfire to prevent themselves from being shot. So the guy has been uncooperative and he's refused to communicate. And now he's coming out with what all all rights appears to be an AR-15 style rifle. And so what else is he doing with it other than coming out to have a shootout with the police?
Yeah, and I see now 3 officers on screen. We got our officer who's badge camera. We have the shield officer who has his handgun out. And then we have a 3rd officer, the guy in shorts on the left, who is looking like he's diving in to maybe try to grab that gun. And listen, I don't think those are necessarily wrong. I do think the officer on the right with the shield, I get why he would want his gun in the fight, but man, this is awfully close to a Taliban wedding ceremony, Mike. I don't love it.
You know, I applaud the intentions of the officer on the left to go in and just maybe try to grab this thing out and prevent gunfire. But he has to know that at least one of these other 2 officers is going to be up with a gun and probably firing here in a second. So while I commend his desire to get this done peacefully and without gunfire, you just can't do that. You can't put yourself in between a bad guy with a gun, and one of your partners, because either way you might get shot by the bad guy, you might get shot by your partner. So that's definitely frowned upon. And as for the shield officer, I'd like to see the shield officer just use the shield and not draw his gun for 2 reasons. One, he's got the shield in his hand, and it's really hard to shoot from behind a shield, as we've seen recently in other videos. And 2, because now he's, I can't see what he's seeing, but it sure looks like he's very close to pointing his service pistol at the officer on the left in shorts. So just some training points. I don't think anyone here was egregious. I think it's just the confluence of events and how things worked out at the store.
Yeah, a little bit of communication goes a long way here, to talk to each other. Tell the officer, hey man, if he comes out with a rifle, you're in charge, whatever. And I'd rather have the officer with a rifle be the first guy on charge on this one. So they do get the guy down. And of course, now I actually want to talk just a little bit from a tactics perspective here, because they got the guy down. We can see the rifle in front of us, and the officer on badge cam pushes very hard and says, we got to get in here and clear this apartment. We got to go clear the apartment. And quite frankly, my recommendation is at this point, slow your roll. Your known threat is down. The rifle is in front of you. You can see it. So slow down, take a deep breath, and make a plan rather than push through with no plan.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. One, I think at this point, you can see the gun is clearly out of his possession. You can grab that gun, slide it across the floor, drag this guy out into the hallway, and close that door. That's what I think I might have done at this moment. A reason being is we can clear the apartment later, we can hold on that door or whatever, we can leave the door open and make sure nobody comes out, whatever the case may be. But I think one thing at a time is the rule of the day. So let's get this guy out, cuffed up. Let's get paramedics on the way, maybe even get him outside so they can treat him downstairs. And we could hold on this door, see if anybody comes out or whatever. Yeah. Running to clear it, especially as it appears they have not done a lot of unit clearing tactics training together, rushing to clear it is a recipe for disaster. And I'll let you talk about this.
Yeah, and not the least of which is because in that rush, we see our badge cam officer here point his firearm at his buddy. And we used to say in the Navy that buddy is only half a word, right? And of course we'll leave it there. But he gets the Blue Falcon Award here for pointing his gun at his friend's back. And if I'm watching this and I'm the officer with the rifle, when we go back for a debrief, we're going to have some words afterwards on this, and some of those words are not going to be very Christian words because you pointed a gun at me. So remember, muzzle discipline, always critically important.
I'm always willing to give cops the benefit of the doubt. For the most part, they mean well. They're trying to do their job as best they possibly can. He was under stress. He did just shoot. However, as I've said before, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, muzzle discipline has to be so automatic that it's an unconsciously competent behavior, that you don't have to think about it, that you don't have to think to yourself, okay, I need to dip my gun now and not bring my gun back up. It needs to be an automatic behavior so that that laser beam coming out of the end of the gun is always on, and you never want to hit anybody with that laser beam. So no excuses ever for pointing a gun at your partner.
So he pointed it at him again here, and now they're building clearing techniques I'm going to say are doo-doo. Quite frankly, they're just not good. I also see here's just a simple equipment thing. I've said many times that I don't think private citizens should really feel like they have to put a light on their carry gun. However, for an officer who's open carrying a full-size firearm, there's no reason not to. You see him here using his handheld light in conjunction with his pistol, and I think far better off here, he should have a very bright pistol-mounted light, especially and specifically to be able to use it. Secondarily, you look at the officer going down into a dark hallway here. He has a light on his rifle, and he's not using it. So have a light on every single firearm you have as a law enforcement officer for duty use, and B, know how to use it and train with it.
I know especially in DC, there's always budget issues. There's never enough money for all the equipment you like. Officers, it's on you sometimes. A gun-mounted light is not a hugely expensive thing. You know, bring your coffee for a month and pass on the Starbucks and save the $300 or whatever it is to get a good quality gun-mounted light, because this, I've never seen this taught, this, you know, resting the gun on the flashlight technique, but a gun-mounted light is critical. So save your money. If your department's not going to pay for it, you need to pay for it yourself.
Yeah, and one last tactics thing here. Again, I'm not a law enforcement officer, and I'm not trying to give him too much crap, but that officer who's off down the hallway here and has cleared to a greater or lesser extent the bathroom here, he's on his own. And one-man tactics are difficult, man. They're just, it's a continual suicide mission. And so if you can avoid it, learning some two-man tactics, teaming up together, and at least having a partner there with you to get two guns into that room in case, God forbid, you have a significant problem, is strongly preferred. I would just say strongly preferred, rather than sending guys off by themselves into the unknown when we have just dealt with a deadly threat. So just an idea, again, do some training together, make sure you get some of that stuff. Now, last bit here, again, to show you guys the fact of the matter is that the gun that they got from the guy is an airsoft gun. But the last thing that we look at is we say, would a reasonable person pursue and see that as a real firearm? I think the answer is yes. I think this is justified conduct all day long. And I think we maybe think about a couple of lessons here just to up our tactics game a little bit, to up our mission and equipment list just a little bit. And in an overall sense, I think these officers did everything they could and did a pretty good job, Mike.
I think they covered their ass.